Welcome to Mindfully Integrative Podcast with your host, Dr. Damaris G. Mindfully Integrative is a podcast discussing ways toward mindfully incorporating integrative health into our lives. This podcast will have informative resources, fun topics, interviews, and discussions relatable for today with a true mindful perspective in a mind-body, holistic life approach.
Hi, how are you? This is Dr. Damaris Murray Grossman, and this is the Mindfully Integrative Show. And today we have an amazing guest, Michelle, who's going to tell you about her art of bending time and art of bending. And she's a lawyer and also health advocate for those and for herself. And she wants to kind of tell her story and how she kind of came to why she is where she is now and why her perspective on health is different than maybe your perspective is and how we can make change. So it's a great pleasure to meet you. And I really am looking forward to hearing more about you. We talked a little bit about it before the show, but, I want, people to know you and how's it going? How are you, Michelle? And I wanted to make sure, is it Neimeyer?
It's Neimeyer, like Neiman Marcus, but it's pronounced correctly.
Wonderful. So thanks for being on.
Well, thank you. And, as I told you, I was so excited to talk to somebody who's about integrative medicine because that's really what led me down the path to getting to creating this program that I call the Art of Bending Time.
I love the name, but, you have a reasons for why. I mean, I don't know what, would like to discuss with the audience and, what you'd like to share, but, one, how did you get to this point? And then two, what is kind of your program?
Yeah. So I got really, really burned out as a lawyer. And I would say about 2013, 13, probably.
Yeah.
And I did the things I knew at the time to try to deal with that, which were, I started exercising more. I started trying to eat a little bit better, but really from the perspective of I didn't know much at the time. I was doing the best I could. So I did a beach potty program. I lost 35 pounds. I was exercising, doing HIIT workouts, taking shakes that were primarily protein and they have a shake called Shakeology that has a bunch of stuff in it, probiotics and prebiotics and some various supplements, and I felt really good. I was like, I had about a year of that where I was like, I'm doing great. And then I had a UTI and I had a blood test. And the blood test came back with these very, very elevated liver enzymes. And that turned into what I'm sure a lot of people that you talk to have experienced, where it's like, oh my God, this is very scary. And I'm just a primary care doctor. I don't know anything about this. You need to go see this specialist. So I went and I saw a gastroenterologist who tried to tell me that I had something they call overlap syndrome, which is really, really bad. I did not have that. And I went to a hepatologist who ultimately got me to my current doctor, who's really exceptional. And what I have is called primary biliary cholangitis, PBC. It's a very rare autoimmune disease. And I've had enough experience with people I know having autoimmunity, and I had some experience in my law practice. I had early on in my law practice, I represented insurance companies in the coverage cases that had to do with breast implants, where I don't know if you even remember this, but in the 90s, there were a lot of lawsuits because women were saying that silicone breast implants were causing them to get fibromyalgia and, lupus and all kinds of autoimmune diseases. So I had learned a lot about that and kind of the general concept of that you've got a genetic predisposition and that there's something that would trigger the disease and that, and I also knew that traditional standard MD kind of medicine didn't always give you answers and didn't always give you, right. They were, the full info that you get is, we don't know what causes this. There's no cure. And we hope that, by taking this drug, we can minimize the symptoms, which in my case would, if left unchecked, lead to liver failure. And, getting this was really scary because it was like I was seeing things online like 10-year lifespan and liver transplants and, that kind of thing.
Crazy. Like, I mean, it's an intense, disorder, and it's like something that no one, I mean, it's like you said, it's rare. I hadn't heard of it myself. And the fact that you were able to find treatment and find something outside of the average, whatever they're, like I said, the liver treatment in 10 years. First, what made you look into further things? Obviously, it's for your health, but how did you come about to there, to where you're at now?
Right. Well, part of it was that I had a friend who was a naturopath and he practiced in California. He owned a home. He had grown up in Miami where I live
Mm-hmm.
and owned a home in Florida. And, I knew because I had talked to him about this. He had written a book about curing cancer with nutrition, and he had also done he was actually Montel Williams's doctor for his MS.
Wow. Okay.
So he had done a
You've
lot
done a
of,
lot.
treating people with autoimmunity. And so the first call I made was to him to say, listen, like, should I be doing anything? And he advised me to do some various things. We looked at my whole history, like, really deep on what did you used to eat when you were a kid and what do you eat now and what
Mhm.
was your health history as a kid. And I now understand,
Like your
having
timeline,
become
your real
certified as a
history.
health coach, we were looking at timelines to find things like, did I have antibiotics? I had so many antibiotics as a kid. Like I was the kid who always had an ear infection and always had strep and always had, and it was constant antibiotics. My body probably had no microbiome except the bad stuff that came back and came in later, you know. So I learned a lot about that kind of stuff. And then I started making big changes. I went raw foods for a while.
Mhm.
I then went through a kind of like a whole 30 type of elimination diet. There's a
Mhm.
doctor out there
Yeah.
named Amy Myers. I followed her protocol. Learned I had a very bad problem with gluten, and over time sort of found my own groove with a different kind of exercise. I'm not nearly as hard on my body anymore as far as exercise goes. I walk a lot. I stretch, I do various things, but I'm not like beating myself up the way I used to. I drink a lot more water and drink filtered water. I eat a lot more vegetables and a lot more fruits. And just, if you look at what I ate in my lifestyle before and you look at it today, you wouldn't know I was the same person. And that has led to incredible change. And the thing I realized, and the reason I put together the Art of Bending Time, was I realized that these changes didn't just impact my health. They have reversed damage to my liver. They have caused me to have, normal blood labs that a lot of people, even with this drug, don't reach that. I've not only gotten in the normal range, I'm in the bottom part of the normal range on these things that they're testing for. So a lot of these things are working better than I was told they would work. But there are also all these other things. Like I had brain fog and didn't really realize where that was coming from. I had, it really like I said, I'd been through this point of really bad burnout. And I hit a point where I was like, I feel really good. I was like, first of all, physically, as far as comfort in my body and just feeling like how I felt more like I was in my early 20s. And I was diagnosed at almost 50. I'm 60 now. So
You do
for me
not look
to be
60
like,
at all. You look amazing. You do not look
well,
60.
thank you. Thank you. But I am.
That's
My
okay.
60th birthday will be November 2nd. So, so basically, all this stuff, I was like, this is amazing. I feel good. I feel focused. I'm getting tons more work done. I'm more organized. I'm more engaged. I care again. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff that
It's
is
like a blessing. You look
burnout
beautiful. You're
wasn't,
changed. You feel good.
yeah, and it didn't exist anymore. And I was like, this is amazing. Like I'm back. And then I kind of sat back and I said, okay, if I want to do something to try to help people, And I did actually do a program for lawyers that's being sold through a CLE course company up in New York, and it's called Lawyers Thrive and Be Alive. I have it on my website, and people can buy it from me, but you don't get CLE credit from me. This other company has it with credits,
Got it.
and they get great reviews. And so I did that for a little while, and it's still out there. They're still selling it, and they're still asking me for more content. And, I thought about it and I was like, I don't want to limit what I'm offering to people who are just lawyers, because it's not really just about the lifestyle of lawyers, although they're kind of poster children for a terrible lifestyle sometimes. Really, any busy professional can be in this place. It happens in medical. I have friends who are doctors and nurses who have gone through the same kind of burnout, and it happens to lots of us. So what I did was I looked back at myself at the time that I didn't yet know that I was feeling burned out or that anything was going on with me physically, and kind of said, who was I then? What did I think was going on then? And I realized I went through a period where I was extremely unfocused. I wasn't able to get stuff done. And it got bad enough that I bought a time management course because I thought that was my problem. So that's why the art of bending time. The art of bending time is about time management in a way. It gives you a way to really be effective at making the time that you have really, really impactful. But it does that by making you healthier and by making you more focused and more able to be in a flow state, because in a flow state you get more done.
You do.
And it helps you to have goals and have goals that align with who you are, and to be aware of what lights you up and what makes you happy, so you're not getting burned out by what you're doing.
I think it's
And it that all came out of this, what I honestly say is like the greatest blessing of getting this horrible autoimmune disease. Because if I hadn't had that happen, I never would have changed.
Mm, but that's why individuals like yourself, like you asked why, what people are like on this podcast, like you are an exact conversation of why, you're changing the way you think about your health, because this impacted the way, you didn't want 10 years of your life. You want 50 or more years, like you,
Right.
you thought
Right.
about
I
it
was like, I'm going to be
differently. I don't want to
120.
transplant. I don't want to transplant. I want
It's
to
like,
do
yeah, I
something
don't like, I don't look 60 because I'm 30 now.
right. Yeah. For real.
Like
Yeah.
I went paragliding last week in Turkey. Like I'm not, and it's funny because a lot of these things, it's all mindset. And it's all about, when you're able to be healthy, live like you're being healthy, and have focus and have energy and have drive and have things you're excited about. It makes everything different. You see too many people, I think, who are like, they hit 50 or so and they're like, is this all there is? And it's sad, but it doesn't have to be that way. And we can choose to change that anytime we want.
I think this is such an important point of view. You changed your health, you changed the way you thought, and you literally changed your body. What did some doctors say to you or people say to you now that things have changed? Like has there been any? I mean, I'm excited
Well,
for
the
you. I'm happy
doctors,
for you.
so I still see the same doctor, the same hepatologist that I've seen in the past, and I adore her. She's wonderful. She's from Brazil. She wasn't trained in our system. She did her residency at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, but she's got that Latin American mindset where she's more willing to be accepting of things like nutrition.
Mhm.
And, what American doctor would have allowed me to get my blood tested every month for 6 months before they said, okay, maybe you should take the drug,
Mm.
you know? And when I told her I wanted to try to deal with it nutritionally first, her response was, I'm not optimistic you're going to be able to do that, but if you do, I'll publish. So, she wasn't against looking at options that were different. And in fact, later, few years into my treatment, she found out about there was a clinical study they were doing at the University of Alberta that was all about lifestyle. And I did that clinical study. And the thing that was funny was I realized like I was already doing the stuff they were telling people to do. And
Mm.
it was mostly a lot of, to some degree, it was cognitive behavioral therapy approaches
Mhm.
to help reduce stress and to help kind of change how you were looking at the world. It was gentle exercise and, making sure to move your body frequently. And, I'm sure it's funny because I wasn't specifically taught this in my health coaching certification, but I always found this, like now I tell people this and they're like, oh my God, you're right. You know, I realized like when I was in school, we didn't really learn much about the lymph system, except that it exists. And it takes the garbage out of our system. Like, how do
Don't
we
talk about it
not get
much.
told? How are we not told about the system that basically takes out the trash and doesn't work unless you move your body to make it work? Like you think about it, like, and I tell people this all the time. I'm like, you want a reason to get up out of your chair and move around every hour or so? Consider the fact that you literally your cells are like bathing in their own waste until you move your body and your lymph system takes it away.
Yeah, and getting a nice, getting nice massages, the saunas, like get clearing out and literally that is one of the detox parts of it, right?
Yeah,
Here. And I think that there's a lot of that missing in they just want to take the pill.
right. And
You're like,
and
no, no.
I just saw this.
Sedentary lifestyle really can kill you.
Yeah. And it's funny, when I was in high school, I lived in Minnesota and there were a lot of Swedish people there. And I knew a lot of kids in high school whose families had saunas in their houses, and they would take a sauna and then go out and roll in the snow, like in the
Oh, wow.
winter, which was nuts. It sounds nuts, but it's basically the same as doing a cold plunge, right? So you're sweating out the toxic stuff, and then you're jumping into the snow and rolling around, and you like go back and cycle back and forth doing that for a while, and you feel so good afterwards.
I mean, I can see like that where it could, and then it's like closing off to clean out. So you've cleaned out and you're closing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense now that, you're looking into it. But I think you're right that having the conversation about the lymphatic system and cleaning out the system. Yeah, but I don't think, I mean, on a medical side, I would tell you, we talk about the lymphatic system, right? And we talk about it very generic of, yes, it's going to, release and the way it flows and shows you how it, how the direction of it. But I don't think we really go into, why it's always the importance of it. And it's always, it's kind of, it is kind of
Yeah, it's
quickly.
and as somebody who's not a doctor, all you learn is basically it exists.
Yeah,
There are
no,
these things called lymph nodes, right?
yeah, yeah.
And
I mean,
you
it is
know,
an immune kind of response, but yeah, it doesn't really, I mean, if you're not really into it, yeah, how would you know?
and if you go through traditional cancer treatment, they cut out the lymph nodes.
For real. They
Yeah.
do. They do.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
So my ex had testicular cancer and he had a surgery
Mhm.
where to prevent the cancer from jumping, they had learned that the mode of transmission, and I know there are some kinds of breast cancer that are like this too, the mode of transmission is through the lymph nodes. So
Mhm.
they will remove the system of lymph nodes that are tied to the part that has cancer,
Yeah.
which, when you think about it for alternative practitioners, they're like, "Ugh, you took the lymph nodes." Because now you're removing that whole section. Like you're taking that whole part out to prevent the cancer cells from moving.
Right. And so it is like, it's this catch 22 of like, not even catch, I don't even know what the right word. You're trying to get rid of the junk, but you've removed the thing to get rid of the junk because the amount of time, yeah, it's complex, right? It's like,
It really is. It
yeah,
really is.
yeah, I know.
So anyway, the what this turned into that I teach people about now
And now
is
you made it a
is
business, right? You made this your own, or is this
this is my business now. I'm no
yeah,
longer
and
doing law.
your passion.
Yeah, I wound out of my last case. I made the decision in about 2019 to stop practicing law,
Hmm.
and I stopped accepting cases. And I just allowed the cases to go through their process and end as they ended. And the last one, which I jokingly referred to as the case from hell that will not go away, ended last summer and, the 2004 in the summer. And since then, I've been doing this full time. So I work with people who are typically people who are 35 to 55, roughly, busy professionals who've hit that, they've hit a point where they've been promoted up to a level where they feel like they're giving up their lives to their jobs a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know what to do. They don't know how to get what they want at home and at work and still be able to function. And some of them are, a lot of times it's not that they feel sick, but when we get into that health related stuff, all of them have issues that way. Because what happens is that's part of it. It's you start feeling that way because of the fact that you're not living a healthy lifestyle.
And their body's going to take a toll from.
Right. And a lot of times it's people who think that they're going to the gym every day and they're running for an hour on a treadmill and they're lifting weights and they're doing the things that they've been taught are the things they should be doing. But, they're also like they're never letting up and they're not necessarily doing the more gentle stuff that you need to. And they're not, there's a lot they're doing that isn't helpful.
I can imagine. Yeah, the cortisols are out of whack completely.
Yeah.
On another note. So I'm one appreciative of you being on the show, but two, I'd like to know, is there a little anecdotal or fun fact that people don't know about you?
Some people know this, but most people out there in the world of, this world that we're in don't. I left my ex and took the boat. And I lived on a boat for 8 years.
Oh, like live
which
on a
was
boat.
yeah, and it was super cool. I loved it. But I got off the boat when I was diagnosed with this liver thing while I was living on the boat. And frankly, part of the reason I chose to get off the boat was because I realized it had mold and it had, I was constantly being exposed to engine, there's chemicals, there's all this stuff. And I was like, I don't know how much of that is affecting me.
Yeah.
But I made the decision to leave that lifestyle in part because I was like, I need to look at this and make sure I'm not exposing myself to things I shouldn't,
Yeah. Yeah. Just your environment, putting yourself in a better state so that you can heal, which obviously was a good decision.
Yeah.
Wow,
And then Irma took the boat. So then the boat went away, which was very sad for me.
Well, you can always go on cruises when you want to once in a while.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same. But I do have to say, when I was in Turkey, my friend that I was there with and I rented a boat for the day, and it was wonderful. And, just to get out on the water and drop an anchor and go paddle boarding and,
do all the good stuff.
That's my happy place.
Well, that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
So how can those reach you?
Okay, so what I recommend to people in the States, especially, and I think this works in Canada, it might work in Mexico, is to text the word clarity to 33777. The other option will be on your show notes, which is a link to the same exact place.
Okay.
It'll give you a sign up to a free community. And in that community, I have some downloadable resources that are really helpful. The first thing I do with any of my clients when I work with them is to help them find clarity on what lights them up. And there's a guided meditation in there and some journaling prompts to help people figure that out. So then they can start proactively working to get that in their lives. And that's one of the things that I found is really, really helpful about avoiding burnout is knowing, like learning, not about big things, not about I'm going to go on a safari or I'm going to do this or that, these big trips or goals to buy a house or whatever. But those little things that light you up, that give you joy in the everyday moments in your work and in your personal life and like in all of your life, making a proactive choice to live your life in a way that you get those things. And so when you're getting those things, it's like fuel that kind of helps just keep you feeling good throughout your day.
I think we need to pause on that. That's beautifully said.
Yeah, I call it sparks that light you up. So, you find those sparks and you keep those sparks going, and that helps you to have like just fuel to get through your day and not to feel taken advantage of or whatever that makes you feel burned out.
I I thank you for being on, because I think that there's someone here listening to, like, right now, they're burnout and they're tired, and they're probably an overachiever of some manner, or
Hmm.
they're at the top of their game, or they're not at the top of their game, and they're going, "My is something going on?" And they need to kind of hear, your a 6-year-old, which I don't even want to say that. It's like, you're beautiful. You've changed your perspective. Your life is different and your health is different. And I think that's amazing. And I congratulate you on that. And I think that, then you've taken this to then help others on it. So it's awesome. So I appreciate
Well, thank you. Yeah, it warms my heart. You know what I mean? It's the kind of thing I'm now doing something that I truly feel like I'm helping people in a way that makes me feel really good. And, that's what it's about, right?
I love it. I love it. So thank you so much for being on the show. And I just wanted to verify again, it's 3337 or 33.
No, 33777.
Okay. So 33777. Text that for more information.
And text the word clarity to that. So that's like the phone number you're texting to.
Perfect. All right. I'll have that in the show notes too. So thank you guys
Awesome.
again for being on.
Well, thank you. It's nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too. And you guys, make sure you make it a mindful way each and every day, and have a good day. Thank you for listening to the Mindfully Integrative Show with Dr. Damaris Maria Grossman, family nurse practitioner. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not to substitute for professional medical advice, diagnose, or treat. Always consult your healthcare provider before making changes to your healthcare routine. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. If you enjoyed our show, please support us by leaving a mindful review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite streaming platform. Interested in being a guest or more information? Email us at info@mindfullyintegrative.com. For resources mentioned in the show, visit our website at www.mindfullyintegrative.com. You can also connect mindfully with Dr. Damaris on her social media links found on the site. May your strength and peace guide you to find a mindful way every day. Namaste.